Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. I'm going to be doing a review of Spider-Man Far From Home. Basics of this plot is that Spider-Man has been given the the glasses that that Tony Stark had in Infinity War. And these are they've got an AI inside them and it's connected to basically all of Stark Industries' weapons. And Mysterio wants that so that he can trick people into thinking that he's a hero. It starts out with Nick Fury and I believe her name was Maria Hill. I wrote her name down. She's so forgettable, but yeah, that's her name. And the two of them, they go to they've gone to a location. There's been a big natural disaster. Mysterio shows up and then a rock monster that could be Sandman but is an illusion, obviously. And then it kind of just cuts to a memorial video for the Avengers that have died. Peter now has a crush on MJ. It just kind of showed up out of nowhere, but yeah. I think they have a very extensive that kind of school news report thing. They've got that again, but it just feels a little bit more drawn out, and I think that was a bit too long. They could have just kept it saying that they've made them redo the entire year, but even then, they don't really need to do that. Aunt May is now working at some version of the Feast Center. She was apparently also dusted. Wait, what would happen if someone was in the same place as someone when they reappeared? Oh, that's probably not good. But yeah, so they go off, he wants to get together with MJ, but basically his life now it's shown as a little bit more it sucks, which is more what Peter Parker's life usually is. But yeah, he's feeling anxiety about people saying oh, are you going to be the new Iron Man? And he doesn't like that. He's worried. He's a bit mournful of losing Tony Stark, and yeah, and I kind of like that. It added a little bit more depth to his character, which this film does a lot of. So he goes on the trip. He wants to tell MJ how he feels on the Eiffel Tower. And then in Venice, basically, Mysterio shows up as well as Hydro Man. I think that was who it was. And there's a fight. Spider-Man is finally shown as strong. Because he was able to hold up a collapsing clock tower, which is something he could do. He's lifted skyscrapers. That's a piece of cake for him. But not lifting the skyscraper. Lifting the tower is probably a piece of cake. There was some stuff, I've heard a little bit of, a few complaints where it's the beginning is a bit too much of, a teen high school film, but that's kind of what Spider-Man is. Spider-Man isn't really a superhero. He is, obviously, but Spider-Man is about someone, a boy becoming a man through the use of superpowers. It is still technically a coming-of-age story that just never ends and is still going even though he's about 30 now in the comics. Nick Fury wants to recruit Peter and he gives him these glasses, and the glasses are kind of cool. Originally I was thinking, okay, they kind of make him a little overpowered, but oh well. He doesn't really use them much. But one thing I will just say about that annoyed me a bit was Nick Fury is meant to be giving Peter this briefing in his room. It was shown in the trailer where he shot Ned with the tranquilizer. During that scene, he's meant to be having this really serious thing, and they keep putting these jokes in where someone's knocking on the door. And they're kind of funny, but I was there kind of yeah, this is breaking the tension a little bit. And it doesn't feel appropriate to have these jokes. They could have just gone straight to him going, let's go somewhere more private, and then they left. Instead of just having this reoccurring joke of people knocking on the door and interrupting him in the middle of this. MJ finds one of the holographic projector things that Peter accidentally pulls off of a drone without noticing. And yeah, they realise that, Mysterio is faking everything. But I absolutely loved it because it's when Mysterio is outed as faking everything, it's all the holograms, and they basically have it's a group of people. Mysterio isn't the main villain, he's the face of the villains. And by far he's definitely the most evil one, I guess, because he threatens the other ones with the turrets and all of that on the drones. But otherwise it's a group of people, and he can't do it by himself. And they're all like people that that the Avengers have or like in particular Tony Stark have ignored. Like the holographic technology in Civil War that Tony Stark calls Barf was created by Quentin Beck. So I was like, okay, well he's not a stuntman or anything, but it still has those filmmaking elements that make it quite entertaining to watch. Like his costume is a motion capture suit. He obviously has like the Mysterio costume, but even then it's just a costume. It's not armored or anything. So most of the time he's wearing the motion capture suit, which I thought was quite entertaining. Like the group of them, like they even brought an extra from Iron Man 1, who gets yelled at by the bad guy of that film that I don't remember the name of. And yeah, they brought back that guy as like one of the characters, which was quite funny. I was like, they actually did that. Anyway, so when Peter realizes, he basically goes to Venice to try and tell Nick Fury, yeah, don't trust him. So yeah, so then him and Nick Fury go into a building. Nick Fury looks like he's been killed, and then they enter this amazing, like, it's kind of like a dream sequence, but it's not, because it's like holograms and all of that. But by the way, it's a little different from something like what you might say Scarecrow does, because for instance, Mysterio can only use what he knows against Peter. He can't, like loads of people. I remember some people were saying like, oh, he's gonna make him relive the death of Uncle Ben. Well, he can't do that. He doesn't know what Uncle Ben looks like, or even who Uncle Ben is. He can't do something like that without intimate knowledge of everything that happened. So instead he does stuff like, for instance, he knows that Peter feels guilt over Tony's death. So they have a bit where it's like Tony Stark's grave, and then like a rusty Iron Man suit with like a decomposing skeleton climbs out of the grave. The only thing I can really compare like its visual style to is Doctor Strange. I had very Doctor Strange vibes watching it, where like Peter's costume keeps changing to like the homemade suit or the Stark suit, and the one he's wearing, which is the stealth suit. Like he even does a bit where he tricks it that Nick Fury did survive the shot and then shot shot Quentin Beck, but then it was like, oh no, still in a hologram. So then, and then he does stuff and it's causing Peter to like back up. And I was like, okay, well, Peter can just lunge forward to attack him, and like, nope, Peter just gets smacked in the side by a train going at full speed. I was like, okay, that was a bit more brutal than I was expecting. He survived because it's Spider-Man and he survived much worse. But yeah, that was brutal. And yeah, so then they go to London and they're trying, and he's trying to like kill everyone. But this one actually shows Peter as smart. Like he increases the voltage on the web shooters by like 2 volts or something, or like a small percentage, which meant that they were more powerful to take down all the drones, so he could break down the holograms. And like when he's doing that, Quentin Beck is like, no, they will see what I want them to see. I'll get to that later, but that final fight was amazing. My favourite live-action Spider-Man fight. He is everything that Spider-Man is meant to be in a fight. Quick, efficient. There's even a bit when he runs out of web fluid, because his new suit, I actually noticed this in the PS4 game, doesn't have the little web holster things that like to keep extra cartridges, so he just runs out of web fluid. So what ends up happening is that he builds himself like a little bomb out of one of the generators and a shield out of a sign. And I was like, that's just so Spider-Man. That's just what he does in a fight. He came off as really smart and quick thinking. Like, the way he took down the enemies. And he doesn't even use his spidey sense for this. They call it his Peter tingle, but they actually make a point in this one as saying that his spidey sense hasn't been working properly. Which helps to explain why it was rubbish in Homecoming, where he didn't seem to use it apart from in one scene on the ferry. And so this one was like, yeah, it exists, but it's not been working properly. So like there's a bit when like Kunbeck activates all this hologram stuff in a corridor, and like he closes his eyes and you can see the lenses are like fully closed, and he just takes down all of the drones with his eyes closed. Quentin Beck looks like he's been shot, and then he tries to shoot Peter in the head, but Peter like grabs his arm because he's like invisible because of the holograms. But Quentin Beck still looks like he's been shot. He dies. He's not dead. I'm sure he's not. But the last thing they did was they, before he dies, one of them, there was one more drone left that they didn't know about, and that one has some footage that one of them just took, and I'll get to that later. And MJ and Peter get together, and the film ends with him with a swinging scene, just like in the old Sam Raimi films, which I loved. They were one of the most fun bits of the film to watch. They were short, but they were so entertaining to watch, the swinging scenes. So it was really cool that they brought those back, or brought it back for that one scene. And then also they got like a kind of a joke version of the swinging with MJ scene that they have in like the first Spider-Man film. I don't think they did it in any of the others. It was a really good film. I really liked it. It basically took everything that I didn't like about like Homecoming and just made it work. Like for instance, Peter feels like Peter. He is smart, hopeful, but also still kind of mournful, and feels like he's always carrying too much responsibility. He's very effective in a fight. He is genuinely shown to be intelligent. And once again, he's still kind of quippy and a bit socially awkward. So it works. He's even got a bit of a temper, which he has in the comic. Peter and MJ's relationship feels really good. It feels more realistic. And I like the new take on MJ. I kind of like the idea that they made her a little bit darker and she's a little bit more moody in the things that she likes. But then they've still got some really nice dynamics and stuff like that. So I think I'm fine with like the idea of that, because even though it's still MJ, it's Michelle James instead of Mary Jane Watson. So I'm technically like the idea that they've basically just gone, we'll change the character quite a bit, but we'll also change her name. It's the same character, sort of, the same baseline build-up, but a different person. So technically you could look at her as a new love interest for Peter. Flash Thompson and Peter have some quite fun kind of dynamic stuff a little bit, with like some of the jokes with like him hating Peter but liking Spider-Man. Like he does that a lot in the comics and it's quite funny. Ned doesn't do as much in this film. Him and Betty have a relationship for the majority of the film, but they're more done like that for jokes. And it never fully commits to that, and they even break up right at the end. So it's kind of like, wasn't really needed, but okay. I think they just needed an excuse to get Ned out the way for a while, so they had him a bit more busy with Betty. Quentin Beck was also really good. I think they're going to stick with this style that the Spider-Man villains are more like the underdogs, a bit like Spider-Man, where they're not really seen as very powerful. Ooh, that does not look good. There is thick black smoke coming out of the forest over there. I should probably call someone. The story is not super complex, but I think at the moment it's my favourite. It's my favourite live action adaptation of it. Like, Spider-Verse is probably my favourite film, like Spider-Man film, but this is my favourite live action one, at least. I'm gonna go see it again on the weekend. Yeah. The end credit scenes, I don't know why I mentioned this last, but end credit scenes, they were good. I only saw one of them because I really needed to go to the toilet, so I had to miss out on the second one. But the one that I watched, it introduces J. Jonah Jameson. It picks up practically where the bit just before the credits left off, where Peter drops off MJ, and then there's a news flash, where they introduce the Daily Bugle, which I think is more, a bit like Just the Facts from the PS4 game. And yeah, and they brought back the guy from the Sam Raimi films. What on earth is his name? So they brought back J.K. Simmons. He doesn't look exactly like he doesn't look so much like J. Jonah Jameson anymore, because he's started losing his hair. But you know, his personality, we just know he can play J. Jonah Jameson perfectly. So I think we can excuse the hair. It was so good to see him back. He even does what he does in the comics and claims that Mysterio is the best superhero that there was, which is exactly what happened in Mysterio's intro comic, where he pretended to be a hero and defeated Spider-Man. So J. Jonah Jameson is like, yes, this man is a hero, when really he's not. But the video that's leaked, it's not when they first showed it was like, okay, so like the first bit where it's like, oh yeah, Spider-Man is the one who shot me. He said that only he could have Tony Stark's technology and all that. I was like, okay, so this is what's going to turn people against Spider-Man, okay. And then it ends with this like Jameson is like, but that's not all, we also have this bit. And it's like, Spider-Man's real identity is, and then like it cuts out a little bit, and then it comes back like, Peter Parker, and then it shows a picture like, and I think like I heard gasps at the back of the cinema, because it was like, yeah, hang on, they've just done that. They've revealed his secret identity. I feel like I should technically hate that, but I'm really interested to see where they go with it. Like, this isn't the first time that Peter has had his secret identity revealed. At the end of Civil War, in the comics, he reveals his secret identity to everyone and goes, yeah, I've been Spider-Man for the last 15 odd years. But then it was all completely undone in One More Day, and I don't even think there was enough time for his identity to be out to really see how that affects him. If not, I haven't read One More Day, so I don't know how much of that affects that storyline, like, or Peter's personality. But I'm like, okay, it's interesting because now people are gonna be a little bit like, hang on, you know, he works with Avengers, he is an Avenger. So is he a bad guy? Also, like, Nick Fury and probably Pepper Potts can probably get him out of that, but then if people believe them, is debatable. So it's kind of like, okay, so people will definitely be conflicted about Spider-Man, but how many people are going to believe Peter Parker is Spider-Man? That's a little bit more interesting. Because, as I said, his secret identity has been revealed, but they've never really stuck with it. Yeah, overall, better than Homecoming, to a massive extent. Really gets the character. I say if you're a fan of Spider-Man, this is probably a really good, like, the best film to watch next to, like, Spider-Verse. So yeah. That's all. Thanks all for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye.